everyone, and welcome to another HAES Book Group Nominee. Today we are looking at I Do It With the Lights On, and 10 more discoveries on the road to blissfully shame-free life. Blissfully shame-free life. I have a hard time saying the title in full. But anyway, it's by Whitney Way Thor, who also has a series on TLC. I'm thinking that we could probably do some reactions to her series while we're reading this, if we choose this book. But first, let's see. So there is no introduction to this. It goes straight into Chapter 1, but Chapter 1 is pretty small. So we're just going to read Chapter 1 real quick. And it starts with this photo of her back. Life got better when I was fat. It was the sexiest photo I'd ever taken. At 340 pounds, I was only just beginning to believe such a thing was possible. It was the fall of 2013, and a local photographer had asked me to pose semi-nude for a boudoir photo shoot. I was the heaviest I'd ever been, and in real danger of being the most miserable I'd ever been, when I decided to approach my life in a different way. I promised myself that instead of declining an opportunity on the basis of my body insecurity, I would force myself to take it anyway. So when I was asked to do the photo shoot, even though it was miles outside my comfort zone, I said yes. It turns out this would be the first time in my entire 29 years that I wouldn't cringe when I looked at a photo of my body. The photo was taken from behind of my bare back, and the roll of flesh on my sides formed a particularly curvaceous hourglass with a few extra minutes. I found that image and others from the shoot more beautiful than I ever could have dreamed, and I proudly shared them on Facebook. To a certain extent, I think that's just something to be said for like a good photographer. They understand how to make things like really flattering and really beautiful. I got plenty of flattering and supportive comments, but I also got nasty ones, including a disparaging remark and a request to remove the images from Facebook because they so offended one Sarah Lynn. When I clicked on her name, I saw all the telltale signs of an internet troll. There was no picture or other identifying information, just a sparsely completed profile connected to a handful of friends. Sarah Lynn, with all of her anonymous bravado, had this to say verbatim about my body. Note to the readers, the spelling and grammar that follow are Sarah Lynn's, not my own, duh. Hey, nobody wants to see fat rolls. I would not want my daughter to see this and think it's okay to be overweight. Nobody should be proud to be fat. They should, try to get skinny and show our youth how to lose weight. America is one of the most overweight countries in the world, and I hate that because fat equals lazy. So, in all honesty, the way this is phrased almost seems like someone who is trying to make people like me who criticize the fat acceptance movement look bad. Because, I mean, it's so... That or they're like 12. And they just said, like, the daughter thing to throw you off. Because, I mean, or they're just stupid. I'm not sure which. But this is not well written. And it's so basic in its argument that, I don't know, it doesn't seem like a real person. To me. And I'm not saying that this doesn't happen. And I'm not saying that Whitney is lying. I'm just saying this thing doesn't seem like... It just doesn't quite seem... It's either not hateful enough for it to be like, okay, no, this is like a full-on troll. And it's not constructive enough to be someone from, like, our community that's criticizing, like, the fat acceptance movement. It reads like someone in middle or high school wrote it. Her comment was such a perfect, all-encompassing example of the fat phobia I'd been subjected to for years, and I was so agitated that in that very moment I decided I had to respond, and I did, in the form of a makeshift blog titled, No Body Shame Campaign. That was the moment my life changed. It was responding to Sarah Lynn that marked a tectonic shift in the way I viewed myself and how I would choose to live the rest of my life. In high school, a fortune teller once observed that I had an uncommon broken lifetime on my palm. What that meant, she told me, was that I would experience a physical death or possibly a spiritual one, followed by a rebirth. It's something I never forgot. Who could? And looking back, I realized that I was reborn the day I responded to Sarah Lynn, transformed into a warrior who lived a life of action instead of passivity. That makeshift blog has now been revamped into NoBodyShame.com, a worldwide movement that encourages everyone to live their lives free of shame. But it all began with an open letter to my detractor where I articulated what had taken me nearly 30 years to discover about life and my self-worth. So before we get into the letter, I do want to take a note about the fortune-telling thing, only because I grew up... I was raised pagan. And while being raised pagan, we often went to, New Age shops. So I am well-versed in dowsing, in tarot cards, runes, palm reading, the whole lot. Here's the thing about, I'm just going to give you guys a little insight into fortune telling party trick sort of things. They don't actually tell you anything. Everything is designed to be vague enough that you graft it onto your life yourself. It can actually be a fantastic way for guided introspection, because everything is vague and you just graft your life onto it. So that physical or spiritual death and then rebirth, one, that's basically the death card in tarot. It's rebirth. It's the abrupt end to something that can be a hard shift, but it's a rebirth to something new. And that can literally apply to anything. I mean, it sounds like she has applied it to this fat experience, but it could have literally been anything. Had she gone another route and lost weight, that would have been the physical and spiritual death of her fat self and into a more healthy and athletic individual. I know it's kind of a moot point. Sometimes I struggle with people that take the fortune telling stuff super, super literally and seriously. I enjoy fortune telling. I actually collect tarot cards and oracle cards, and I'm looking at getting a set of runes just because I enjoy it. It's fun. It's kind of like taking personality tests where everything is vague enough to kind of apply to everyone else. Based on what you latch onto, kind of will tell you a variety of things about yourself and will help you kind of discover what actions you want to take. So I quite enjoy them. I find it always interesting when people take it like it's this super serious thing. If you are into fortune telling and stuff, it's totally cool. I'm into it too. Just know that these things are designed to be vague enough to fit everyone, and the personalized aspect of it comes from that person, subconsciously or not, grafting their life onto these vague notions. So that's how fortune telling works. Alright, so let's read her letter. Dear Sarah Lynn, I put your name in quotation marks because you are not a real person. I know this because this weekend after I read your comment on a Facebook photo of me, damn, you are a big ol' girl, I clicked on your profile. I quickly realized that your page was a front so that you could say something to me on the internet that you weren't comfortable putting your real identity behind. But it doesn't matter that you aren't real, Sarah Lynn, because there are a million men and women just like you in the world, and I've officially encountered too many of them to keep my mouth shut about it any longer. While this is nowhere near the most hateful thing that has been said to me on the internet or otherwise, I thought it was a good representation of so much ignorance fat people, and more specifically fat women, deal with on a daily basis. And since I'm an optimist and you might just really be uninformed and not a hateful asshole, I'd like to address your points. 1. Hey, nobody wants to see fat rolls. Actually, some people do. Some people don't. Some people want to see blonde hair. Some people don't. Some people want to see big lips. Some people don't. I would go on, but I reckon this point is pretty elementary and has probably been sufficiently illustrated. Different people like And as human beings functioning in society, sometimes our eyes pass over things we don't find particularly aesthetically pleasing. But we just move on because it's easy. I would not want my daughter to see this and think it's okay to be overweight. Unless you plan on keeping your daughter captive in a house full of average to underweight people, devoid of magazines, television, internet, and other forms of media, she will inevitably see overweight people. She'll see all kinds of people who look nothing like her. She'll see old people, differently abled people, tall people, freckled people, people of all different races, and it's certainly okay to be all these people. People are what they are, and they can't inherently be wrong based on appearance. If you're worried about your daughter becoming overweight, I can assure you that, similar to skin color or stature, being overweight is not contagious. Exposure to my fat body won't cause hers to morph into something it isn't already. So while she's true about the contagious part of it, I don't like it being equated with skin color or height or whatever, because you can change your weight. You can change your weight. It's not nearly as immutable as things like skin color, whether you're like able-bodied or not, height, gender, sexuality, age, those things. It's not on the same level. Nobody should be proud to be fat. This might shock you, Sarah Lynn, but I'm not particularly proud to be fat. I do happen to enjoy parts of my body. I think I have beautifully shaped breasts and full eyelashes. I like my belly button. I think I have a killer smile. These are all parts of my body, but they're not me. I am fat and I am proud of myself, but I'm not proud of being fat any more than I'm proud of being brunette or proud of being 5'2". Am I comfortable being photographed in lingerie? Yes. But I wonder if you would look at a woman in a bikini who has size A cup breasts and say, nobody should be proud to have small tits. For some reason, all other women in their various non-fat bodies are just existing, just wearing bathing suits in the summer, tank tops around the house, or lingerie for a boudoir shoot. And no one shames them for that. No one accuses them of having so much pride in their bodies that they aren't afraid to show them. The implication is that everyone who is not fat is allowed to show their body. But if you are fat and not wearing a potato sack, whoa, you better check your pride, sister. I'm proud of myself as an entire person. My body is fat. I deserve to wear the clothes I want and to live the way I see fit, just like every other non-fat person. End of story. They should, try to get skinny and show our youth how to lose weight. One of my pet peeves, Sarah Lynn, is when people assume. I'm sure you're familiar with the old adage about that. I'm almost 30 and I was not overweight until I was 19. So I've actually lived the majority of my little life here on earth as a thin woman or normal woman, an average woman, whatever. I've also tried to get skinny. After being diagnosed with PCOS, save both you and me time and just Google it, I was never able to get skinny, but I did lose 100 pounds once with the help of a wonderful personal trainer and a shit ton of dedication and hard work. But really, it's no concern of yours what I should do with my body. America is one of the most overweight countries in the world, and I hate that because fat equals lazy. I will agree with you there. America is one of the most overweight countries in the world, but I must wholeheartedly disagree with your statement that fat equals lazy. Some fat people are lazy, some aren't. Some thin people are lazy, some aren't. Again, it's not any concern of yours if I'm lazy or not, but I'm actually not. And plenty of fat people aren't. I'll never forget the time I busted my 250-pound ass at the gym, outperformed all of the thin people in there, ran 4 miles, and walked out to the sidewalk dripping with sweat, only to be greeted with, "Hey, fat ass," from a passing car. Largely what Whitney's saying here I don't have full disagreements about, because for the most part she's like, it's none of your concern what I do with my body, and I agree with that. I do think that it's, if you went to a gym and it wasn't like a Planet Fitness, but it was like a real serious sort of gym, I highly doubt that you outperformed everyone there. Like, I'm not saying you didn't work your ass off, but I don't know. I find this is something that happens a lot with the fat acceptance people, where they're like, I've dieted more than anyone else, I worked out harder than anyone else, and it's like, did you though? Like, it almost seems like the Dunning-Kruger effect a bit, where because they're not used to it and they don't know the level of dedication that some people have to their exercise, they assume that what they do is just as much or superior to those that work out regularly. When they're confronted with, no, this is what like a real workout is, then they get upset and they complain and they get frustrated. This is something that I would really, really, really like to watch alongside her TV show. This blog was the beginning of my new life. It's a life I never could have conjured up even in my wildest imagination. One full of genuine confidence, happiness, and respect for the old life I survived. To call this change in my psyche a rebirth isn't the least bit overdramatic either. I am actually living in a way that I previously thought impossible. Sometimes I still have to pinch myself. When confronted with all the implausible circumstances, auspicious opportunities, and boundless reserves of love for myself and others that have appeared in my life, I often wonder how in the world I got here. Here's how. So, and that's another thing with the fat acceptance people, is that it's always like, I never knew I could live this way. It's like, is that really how you felt? Or, I don't know. It's just such a common theme with the fat acceptance people, where it's like, I didn't know I could be fat and happy. It's like, what the fuck do you mean you didn't know you could be fat and happy? Are you telling me you've never experienced joy in your life? Really? I don't know. It does, and I'm sorry, but I do think Whitney's whole claim for a rebirth and she's now a warrior and stuff, I do think it's a little overdramatic. That's me. I think if I'm really thinking, like, I'm kind of settling hard on this, that I think if we go over this, we are going to watch some of her TV show while we read this. But let me know what you think. What did you think of the chapter? What do you think of this book? And I will see you next time. Thanks for watching.